I explain to you how does that thing going to harm the paradigm under our world. So let's move on to my first analysis, which is adverse effect on the second country. We need to agree to the fact that some country do have some other different country have different interests of something. So we believe that certain benefit goes to only certain country, but the other thing that happen is the other country will get the bad effect to it. So we believe that under their world, they are actually promoting a parasitism benefit where the other are going to get the benefit, but the other country who are not really into that interest will get the effect, negative effect by it. I give you an example. If Malaysia able to increase the cost of oil, but at the end of the day, the other country who have problem with this oil or whatsoever, they're going to get a bad effect because now we are sharing one currency, but at the end of the day, they will not get the benefit. So we believe that all those benefits that stated by the government team have been totally vague and whatsoever. No, thank you. So we believe that under their world, where they are where they fight for everyone to get the benefit or whatsoever, we don't think this really happen because some country will get some different effect by these changes. So let's move on to my second analysis. Maybe under their side later, they say that, oh, our policy empower the Asian country and what so on. We believe that that's not really realistic because we have in Asia, we have different type of country. We have a big type of country who are very strong economically, and we have this country who are very, very poor at the first place. So we believe that these country who are rich, this country who are big country, will control the most of the interest of this currency. So we believe that this is not really going to happen. So the poor country will fail to improve themselves at the end of the day. They are struggling and what so on. We believe that all the benefit that we stated towards the that be stated by the government that we're going in fact the poor country not really to happen and explain it how does that happen. So when the rich country control the most of the interest, so now the poor country cannot put up their interest and people won't listen to them. So the currency, the whole currency of Asia will controlled by this rich country, and that's not really beneficial for this poor country. So I don't think so. This poor country will be rational enough to choose to be under their policy. But before I continue furthermore, last one.
Germany was a poor nation post-World War II, but after opting in to the Eurozone, they rebuilt their nation to be one of the biggest powerhouses in Europe. So this analysis on how poor countries no benefit, what's your analysis?
Okay, I tell you what, these Euro countries whatsoever are fighting for one interest, and we believe that, like Britain, they doesn't want to be in Eurozone whatsoever because they believe that this disturbs their sovereignty at the first place. So all the benefits that they themselves are very vague at the first place. We cannot believe that. All fake, we cannot believe. Government, worlds, totally vague. So let's move on to my last analysis of my argument, which one loss affect everyone. So under their world, we believe that we have tons of problematic country in Asia. We have some countries who have problematic in who are facing problem in politics aspect, and some have problem in economic aspect. So I give you a few examples. Afghanistan, they have a lot of conflict with its Taliban. Second example, Indonesia, they still fail to settle the problem with the religion and state thingy. So with Malaysia, Malaysia likely to show moderate economic growth. So I clearly shows that these Asian countries have a lot of problems to be settled down. So we don't believe that under their world, where people say that, oh, we're going to have the same measure whatsoever, that's not likely to happen. And because this country have few things to be settled up, and they are not likely to join the currency agreement whatsoever. So under our world, we believe that if they are saying that, oh, our world is promoting a stable currency, we believe that this is not likely to happen because those countries who are problematic, we pull down the big country financially, like China, Japan, and Singapore. This country we pull down by this poor country, and that is not beneficial. This will affect this rich country. At the end of the day, this currency also going to be unstable, and everything goes wrong. No benefit are being promoting under their world. So what I've told you in my speech today, I've told you that how under our world, how under their worlds thing goes wrong, how under their worlds some benefit will not to go to the certain country, and I've told you how is their case is totally vague because they have failed to give a sufficient amount of analysis, and I believe that I'll give a good, I already spent much sufficient analysis towards my argument. So if you want to live in a world where the worlds are not biased towards this poor country and rich country, please be under our side. With that, I rest my case.
Thank you, Ahmad Zaki, for the arguments given. Well, the debate is getting more heated. Ladies and gentlemen, now for the third minister from the government, let us call forth Ishraf Aiman bin Muhammad Nasir to present his arguments.
The manifestos of national identity from side opposition, the promises that people on the ground hold on to, the idea like how we're the greatest exporter of rubber, like how our palm oil is the best, that it can secure your job as a factory worker promoting these kinds of things. It doesn't foresee the harsh nature of economics. Like how we didn't foresee the EU reducing palm oil expenditures imports in 2016. The point is, it doesn't look very good for Malaysia at this point in time. Stop protecting your national interests and start thinking strategically. Before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I bid to honorable panel of judicators, accurate timekeeper, worthy opponents, comrades, ladies and gentlemen, my speech will comprise of three main parts. Namely, the technicality in opposition and their flaws. Secondly, we're going to talk about what they didn't want to engage with in our side. And thirdly, we're going to have fun with rebuttals, right? So let's talk about the technicality in their side. So a lot of their harms were contingent upon people countries not engaging with these common currency to begin with. The problem with that is it does not deny any of the benefits that both of my speakers have given you. But even if so, we told you that they do have an incentive, from previous responses. For example, because we told you that there's a natural incentive to join the benefit. For example, China, as a strong economy, they still have an incentive to join powerful economic blocs, because economic blocs necessarily have a stronger currency compared to China. So if they feel that their yuan is threatened, then they will join this economic bloc because they are just stronger. But secondly, we told you that there are countries like Turkey who are dying to join the EU because they just know that the benefit of joining these kinds of coalitions is just that exponential, right? But before I move on to my second point of technicality.
Then prove why United Kingdom didn't want to join the Eurozone.
The factors in which Brexit happened is not just because of economic disciplines. We told you that there is the political dispute that's happening inside and outside of Europe. We told you that that does not have anything to do with the case. But even if you wanted to push that still does not deny the net benefit that we give towards other countries who are not Britain, right? We told you that that's a value-neutral POI. So secondly, their biggest contention was that they want to defend national interests. They want to defend domestic economic excellence. That is, they want Proton to flourish. They want Mars to flourish. But they never really told us how this is going to happen. Because the reality is demand for our stuff, for our products in Malaysia, is very low. So necessarily, the only thing that they do is that they increase the taxes of Mercedes cars that come into Malaysia. So necessarily, the illusion of national interest that you want to defend is more prevalent in your world. Because necessarily, the individuals who want to buy cars in your world have to be subjected to false prices which are not representative of what the prices should be. So the consumer power in your world is much less. We tell you that the way you want to defend national interest, by increasing import taxes and incentivizing, indoctrinating national privileges, we tell you that's very improper and it's very unclear. Before I move on to my points of engagement in their case, any defenses? Okay, so the biggest chunk of their arguments didn't really gel up with what both of our speakers have managed to give you. So what did both my speakers give you? Okay. So there are a lot of points that both my speakers given you. They just denied by saying that this just wouldn't happen because people wouldn't want to join. So let's talk about why it's good in nature. Let's not be selectively listening like opposition. So currency stability. Necessarily, when there is an economic bloc and a lot of internal transactions happen, the currency, the dong, will be stronger. So necessarily, you don't actually deny the fact that this dong is getting stronger and stronger by the day. Because it's not just, the incentive is not just upon you as a country, the incentive is because other countries are doing it. So it doesn't mean that just because China wants to be standalone, to increase the strength of the yuan, it doesn't necessarily deny the fact that other people are still trading with dongs. We tell you that the currency stability is the biggest factor in which these people want to join these common currencies to begin with. But secondly, you also didn't deny the idea of specialization. We told you when there is elimination in the boundaries of currency exchange, then the prices in which labor costs are, the prices in which production costs are necessarily decreased. So there is now no boundary in which China can import like a lot of their goods into nations nearby. Now they are de-incentivized to actually import to countries like Europe, because the only reason they do it to begin with is because Europe has a stable currency. So why not we do that in Asia, right? We tell you that the import, being geographically closer means that import fees are necessarily lower. So we tell you that in the long run, we can say that China will abandon Europe. China will abandon investing into these other countries because necessarily the economic bloc that we create is just much better, right? But thirdly, they didn't want to talk about the maximization of efficiency of factories. Coming from my second opposition, we told you how there are factories in Malaysia which are not used to the fullest of extent. That is, the cost of production is high because the factories, the machines that can create like proton cars do not create the fullest extent that they can do. Why is this so? Because there is no demand. We already told you that the collective demand of cars that happen, the collective demand where all the other countries are able to ask for the same car, we tell you that when the demand is concentrated into one country, when all the people who want to buy Proton Saga cars buy it at Malaysia, we tell you that the factories that waste their energy and waste their money into not doing anything will be able to produce these cars. Then necessarily the profit margin increases, right? They fail to see this logic. But thirdly, they also didn't want to talk about the elimination of fluctuation in exchange rates because exchange rate, the very fact that exchange rates fluctuate, and therefore it's very hard for countries to invest into other countries because they just don't have the confidence, the investor confidence in these countries. We tell you that we eliminate that because the point in which you have a stable currency, you share the same currency, then what do you have to worry about, right? So before I move on to my points of rebuttals, any defenses? Great. So let's talk about their points. So they wanted to say that it's better for you to draft monetary policies domestically because it appropriates the situation on the ground. We tell you that we have a few responses. Number one, that's very idealistic because often not you create leeway for countries like Zimbabwe to make hyperinflation, right? Just because you make the decision by yourself doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good decision. We tell you that it's much better for these small countries not being able to regulate their own fiscal policies. We tell you that it's better for a central bank to do it for them. We tell you that this can only happen in our world. But even if so, the comparative is you can still control what you use the money for. Coming from the first speaker, we already told you how this policy does not mean that we can control what you use the money for. We only increase the inflation rates, right? So necessarily, if you want to defend, if you want to get out of recession, you can still strategically adjust your spending as a government, right? We tell you that you still have an alternative in our world. But second, the biggest point in both speakers is also about the idea of sovereignty. We tell you that it's very idealistic and principle for them to defend. Why is this so? Because to an extent, we have to agree, sovereignty does not exist inside the scope. Because to an extent, the IMF dictates your money and the value of your currency and everything that you think is yours is not actually yours. We tell you that sovereignty is not exclusive in your world. But even if so, we tell you that countries do trade off sovereignty for the expense of economic benefit. That's why we see China trading with Japan. That's why we see even when we have political disparities between other nations in the Middle East, we still trade with them because it's just an economic benefit that you cannot deny. So what's the comparative here? We tell you that our case is more appropriate for the individuals on the ground. We increase consumer confidence. We increase the prosperity of people of Malaysia.
Thank you, Ishraf Aiman, for the points presented. Now that the government has had its say, let us call for the opposition whip to counter all points put forth by the government bench. Please welcome Aris Shakil bin Aizuddin.
Test. 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe every single one of us in this hall wants to see our region, Asia, to flourish. However, unfortunately, if you rely on a handful number of rich countries to support a plethora of poor and impoverished countries, we don't see any political or economical significant growth in our region, ladies and gentlemen. We believe a world that side government proposes is very idealistic and very detrimental. That is why you should not go and choose their side, but please go outside. But before that, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very splendiferous morning. I bid firstly to Madam Speaker, sir, to the Madam Speaker, the star panel of adjudicators, the dashing timekeepers, amazing opponents on the side of government, loyal comrades on the side of opposition, and not to forget members of this majestic parliament. So in my speech today, what will I do? I'll be doing three things, which is number one, I'll give my rebuttals. Number two, I'll reconstruct my team's arguments. And last but not least, I'll summarize my team's case.